Warriors Sports Pulse. My name is Gabriel. I am joined here by E-Rock. We are going to dissect what I think is actually going on with Dan Hurley. But Coach Geno of UConn, speaking of UConn, Dan Hurley, Coach Geno of UConn has offered some really interesting words and insights onto Caitlin Clark and kind of reasonable expectations. But first, we are going to discuss the Boston Celtics win last night. E-Rock, just go ahead.
Yeah, this was it's like what I said. I mean, I got this game wrong, no doubt. I'll admit it. I did not get this game right. I thought that it was going to be closer, but I'm not surprised because one, I didn't realize they were honoring Bill Walton last night. I don't know how much connection the young bucks on the team have for him, but I mean the energy, but the fans do, and the energy from the fans is palpable. I'm a huge believer in vibes. Because when I walk into a room and there's like a weird vibe, I can feel it. It's the same thing when you're on a basketball court. It's even more, or a football field, etc. You feel it, and they came out and they came out sloppy. Both teams did, but when Schnapps came in, couldn't have been more wrong about him in the game. He went out and he just balled out. Defensively, I was more impressed with his defensive performance than his offensive performance. I was surprised how nimble he was to get up and down the court. My biggest takeaway is, and I did say this, no matter what happens this game, because that's why I said I didn't call it, but I'm not surprised. This is the way the playoffs have been this postseason. Like, that's kind of redundant, actually. This is how the playoffs have been. Every game is going to be different. I don't think this it was Boston in the driver's seat. That's not the way things have been working. This next game could be a close game. It could be Dallas running away with it. It could be who knows. But because we also know that Luka, his stat line after a loss, and especially in the playoffs, I think that's mainly what the stat is. He averages like way more. He averages in the mid to high 30s. I don't think that was the biggest issue last night. It was turnovers. They got themselves in such a hole that they were, even when they started coming back to get within 6, Luka was already asking out of the game. I think he was gassed. I think they also didn't, and they just weren't ready for the moment. Maybe they just, like someone said today, I think it was Udonis Haslem, and I respect actually the dude has a great resume. And he's got he's a Miami homer, but he's still really smart. He said, now it's probably good they got this out of the way. The Mavs, I should say. It's probably good they got it out of the way because now they're like, okay, we haven't been here before, but we're playing basketball. Once we get on the court, everything doesn't matter anymore. So Kyrie didn't show up. He had his worst playoff game performance ever in his career. And he'll come back out. I have no doubt that Kyrie will come back out. I'm a rhyming machine today, Dr. Seuss here. That he'll come back out and he will. I think he needs to be the catalyst. I think he's the one who needs to come out, punch them in the mouth first, metaphorically, of course, and set the tone because they can't get down in a hole. And then Boston's too deep. They're too deep to be able to do that. You need to punch them in the mouth early and get psychological on that ass. So that's where I'm at.
No, first of all, isn't it great to have playoff basketball or isn't it great to have finals basketball again? And just basketball in general, hell yeah. But I don't know how to read this game, E-Rock, and this is why I reached out to you. However long it was ago now. Let's just call it 4 months ago, to start podcasting because I anticipated on June 7th, the day after Game 1 of the NBA Finals, I was like, this is going to be hard, and I want someone of E-Rock's mind, of E-Rock's eye and caliber to really analyze this game. So this is I'm hoping you are able to provide a little clarity for me over here, E-Rock.
Yeah, appreciate that. Very kind words of you, sir.
And And let's see if we have a legitimate comment or
No,
not.
no,
Oh,
it's a
we
good
do.
comment. It's a good comment. I can't
Shout out to
forget.
Joe. Shout out to Joe for providing legitimate comments that
It's like, there you go. I couldn't help it. I was like, no, I'm looking too. Trust me. In fact, I have a sign today. I actually have a sign that's going to be like, no. It's like, yeah, you'll know. Trust me, you'll know.
and,
Oh God. All right,
so
go.
shout out to Know Your Muffs Joe right there on Twitch. And so he says now 9 assists is pretty wild. My condolences on the second piece.
9 assists. Who's referring to? What? Nine assists to? Was that the whole Mavericks team? Assists? Joe, answer me on that. I know you're listening.
I'll
I
look
know
at
you're
the box
listening.
score now. But when he
Okay.
says my condolences on the second piece, I think he's I
Says on
think
the-
he's talking about our little back and forth right there, right?
Oh yes, he's agreeing with me for the whole team. Wow, I did not know that stat. Wow, nine assists for the entire team. Well, you're not going to win a lot of games doing that. That's a lot of ISO basketball.
And this,
Continue your statement.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
So no, you're good. You're good. That was we had to address Joe there and everything else.
We had to make sure.
But anyway,
Had to screen.
but yeah, back to the game and what happened yesterday. Here's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm seeing. They being the Boston Celtics, and in terms of the rust versus rust, I'm a believer in. I'm a believer in if you're in a rhythm, if you're playing well, I'd favor that over rest more times than not. And yesterday, the rest crowd, they got one yesterday. They definitely did. Boston did look a little fresher, particularly in the first quarter.
Mhm.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
But moving forward, they did a nice job of making Doncic have to make tough shots or tough plays. They didn't help off of Doncic, and that's partially why we didn't see the lobs and then the corner threes, and hence why we didn't see double-digit assists from the team as a whole.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Right.
E-Rock, here's my question.
Yes. Let me grab it.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I'm gonna do this I'm gonna do this with props here. So I know I think I know what you're about to ask. All right. Sorry. Continue.
Go ahead. Be Nostradamus. What am I about to ask?
You're gonna ask about. Well, you're saying it's the rest. Well, I may be wrong, and I'm not committing to this, but you're asking about like what they did, maybe adjustment wise, and also the question is, the other question is, I don't know. My question would be: is it sustainable going forward? I don't know. What is your question officially? I could be wrong, obviously.
Yeah, not quite where I was going with this, but I'm intrigued now. Wait, what do you mean? Let's go to you first. I'm feeling generous.
No, I want to answer your question first, and I can get into that after. Let's go to your question.
No, I'm pulling rank. What do you mean?
So my question obviously was more intriguing, I guess. I don't know. I'm playing with you. Yeah, okay. Well, here's the.
No, I'm genuinely confused by what you mean now.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. I'm happy to answer. This was very. I've criticized Joe Mazzulla. Damn it, where's my paper? Oh, there it is. I've criticized Joe Mazzulla for his lack of adjustments in game. Last night could not have been for in between games. I don't think this. Both these teams had an extended amount of time off. There was no, which is. I didn't like that they had so much time because I think one, it's just milking it essentially. Two, I mean, I'm selfish and I wanted to see basketball. So
right.
that's just me. But so I don't think it's the rest versus rust in this case. This was about one team came out flat. It came out kind of shook. And when their leader, the only other than their coach, the only other person on their team who's been to a championship series and he won it is Ree. And when Ree looks like he's kind of flustered and shook, it's not exactly a comforting kind of thing for the rest of the team message-wise. Now, that's why I think Ree's going to come back out. He ain't going to get shook again. And the rest of the team just kind of like got lost in that whole fold. Here's the damn, if I can find my damn I had my pad. And I was ready to do this, but I'll get in a second. It's all good. But just to give you an illustration of what they did last night, scheme-wise, which was super smart. Schnapps could not have done a better job. I thought he was going to be more of like a decoy in the middle when it was like for lobs. He played defense to a T, and it did disrupt the lobs. He blocked Kyrie on one of his floaters or his teardrops from the side lane, which he was putting over Trudy this previous series against the Timbs. But this, no, I mean, the Celtics came in with a plan, and they were only single covering one-on-one, man on man. Sorry, I was laughing at Joe.
Well, yeah, finish your thought.
I know I am. But what they did was they put the pressure on just man-to-man shadowing Luka. Luka's good. And what they had the mindset of is Luka's going to get his. And occasionally they did trap him. And they did blitz him and trap him. And that's where they got. And Jaylen Brown is the best player on the court. Give your props to Schnapps, man. But JB was the best player on the floor. So he had steals, he had rebounds, he had just monster transitions, and he was one in the driver's seat, which is ironic because he kept doing the seatbelt thing, which just means he's locking someone up, which is I had never seen anyone do that before. It's sort of clever, I guess, but I'm not exactly a fan. It's kind of lame, but so. And once I get props, I will actually be able to put a diagram this, illustrate it. But and what they've made, and also they played really, really like baseline on defense. The Celtics played baseline centric defense because they were trying to make sure they got rebounds, and when they knew that the Mavs were going to go to the hole, they pinched. That's what I told them. That's what I call it, pinching. That's what I call. That's what I tried telling. Whenever I coach, try saying like pinch, and that means like get ready to move from the baseline up, and that way they're stopped. Now the risk of that is you have people on the outside, but the Mavs were not shooting well from the perimeter last night. Don't get it twisted. Luka ain't going to shoot that bad again because he was, and yes, he had 30 points, but he was missing a lot of shots that he would usually make. His percentage was down. Kyrie had the worst turnover differential he's ever had in playoff game, maybe his career for God's sakes. It was just and Lively was taken out of the game essentially, like not like literally, but he was like taken he was like not an issue for them. So, and they can't get down. That's what I'm saying. That's where the defense is. That was what was most impressive. The offense was a little sporadic at times, and their defense slacked the Celtics. In the third. But that's where I was going to go with it. I'm happy to. Sorry, I'll respond to it. Yeah.
No. We'll get to this in a moment. But first, Joe says, "Good. I was surely going to ask the president of the Porzingis fan club to give him his flowers." Spoken sarcastically for context. And so here's where this is all coming back to now. Let's focus first on Porzingis because he played well.
Yeah.
And there have been very few voices who have been more critical of Porzingis and him even showing up to the NBA Finals than me.
Yeah, true. And me, I'm with you on that.
However,
found my pad.
However, it needs to be said that this was the scenario that we laid out in which Porzingis could have a positive impact while we protect him from the biggest hindrance to his career, which is his body wear down.
Yes.
And injury.
Yes.
So him getting 20 minutes is entirely appropriate.
Yes.
And if you were to push that any further, literally everything we said more likely than not comes to fruition. And we saw toward the end, especially in the first half, he was out of breath. He was huffing and puffing. It looked like an episode of The Big Bad Wolf. So
an episode of The Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward. Yeah. I'm looking forward to season 5. But This is why Porzingis has to stay in this role. You can't go a step further and say, well, he played really well and he was hot from three, so therefore if he plays 30 minutes, imagine how great he will be then. Let's just admit he caught lightning in a bottle, and great, he deserves credit for that. And especially defensively, he hit what he did deterred what Boston was trying to do.
Yeah, it's true.
And he used his length well. But I want to focus on what the Dallas, as something of a simple adjustment I think they could make. But let's focus on the Celtics first. Jason Tatum. What if you had to pick? What was he? The third best player, the fourth best player on this team? And after the game, they made the point. They had this debate about superstars versus stars.
Mm-hmm.
There are series where you have someone who comes off the bench, where you have your non-clear first option. In this case, if you have a 1A, 2B, your clear non-primary scoring option, whether it is Brown or Tatum in this case, where they have a good night and they almost carry the load.
Yeah.
That happens, right? Mike Miller for the Miami Heat, Ray Allen, of course, for the Miami. I don't know why I'm just thinking Miami Heat at the moment, but you get the idea.
All right. Yeah, I get it.
So this happens. You can't depend on this if you're the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series for Porzingis to be spectacular. Not only because of everything we mentioned before game 1, but because that's really how it works out. We need Jason Tatum especially to step up big time. And it's not and this is more so what I'm worried about for him moving forward if I'm a Boston Celtics fan. He's literally wearing into the arena the Kobe shirt. And this is why right, you're reading too much into this. No, I'm not. His mindset is that he can be a great ISO player and that he can make these tough shots and that when needed, the ball doesn't need to flow. He is that guy. At this point, he is not. And this Boston Celtics team plays the best when the ball is moving around. So can he make really tough, impossible fadeaway shots from 30 feet? Yes. Is that how the Celtics are going to win this playoff series? Absolutely not. And so he was 6 of 16 from the field. It's not for me even that he was 6 of 16 from the field. It was just the bad shot selection, especially early. So and this is something that really needs to be fixed going forward. So and so we're gonna discuss the Mavericks here in a moment, and we're gonna say, right, the 9 assists, that's an anomaly, and the 3-point shooting, that's an anomaly. At the same token, do I think Pritchard is gonna go 0 for 5 from 3? No. So in some ways, I think that's zero-sum-ish game. But what is, and we're gonna talk about Kyrie Irving in a moment in more detail. If you have to pick now, who do you think is going to have a rebound performance from game 2 through a game 7 if it gets to that? If you have to pick the duo of Tatum and Brown or Doncic and Irving, I'm still siding with Doncic and Irving because all the criticisms coming into this playoff series, all the worries that I've had about Tatum, and I'm going to go ahead and throw Porzingis in there for now. If we want to say that they're the big three, right? I already saw that Porzingis should be the finals MVP, so I'm glad we're not overreacting. I'm still going with the best players on the Mavericks over the best players of the Celtics over a 7-game series. That's where I'm coming from, E-Rock. So what's this prop thing that you have going on now?
Well, I'm saving it for the next when we talk about the Mavs because I already kind of illustrated it with this. But I do got I did a nice little diagram. Look at that. Dope.
Oh, look at that.
I know.
Look at that.
I know. I'm just
all right. Let's move on to the Mavericks.
I'm just a little artist here. I'll say this: the next player that's going to come back, and this segues perfectly into this. The player I trust to come back, specifically one player, is Ree. Ree's going to come in to this next game. He's going to come in on Uncle Drew status. He's going to be ready for this one. I promise that.
Yeah. And so an adjustment, and this is how I just saw the game. So when I say the rest crowd got a win yesterday, not really. Not really. I think you made the point. Like, it was about even. I think it was more that they came out uh, a little more flat-footed slash just on offense. They weren't as hot as the Celtics were, right? The Celtics just had a really good first quarter. And so I completely dispel the notion that, again, after the broadcast, after the game, they were saying offensive explosion.
Not
It
really.
wasn't an offensive explosion. First of all, the Celtics scored 107 points. In the modern NBA, if that is a modern offensive explosion, I'd say we have to reevaluate that term. They had a really offensive first quarter.
That's what I would
I'll
say.
give
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
more than fair.
Maybe the
But
fourth
you
quarter.
can't.
The fourth quarter too, because they were down to 6, and then Luka went out of the game. It was a 6-point game. Then in like 2 seconds, it was an 18-point game. So, and that's because Luka
Yeah,
wasn't in
but
the
they
game.
only scored. They only scored 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it was more about but one team wasn't able to score in general. I think it was definitely more of a
Right,
defensive
right.
game.
No, right. But it's not an offensive explosion. To me, this was more about the Boston Celtics defense stepping out, particularly Porzingis early.
Yeah,
That's for me. That's for me the highlight. Just and you said that too. You did say that.
I agree.
So, but anyway, what I saw from the Dallas Mavericks, to me, it looked like they were trying to see if the same recipe that worked against the Timberwolves would work against the Boston Celtics. And in a large part, we saw the Timberwolves almost back down, particularly down low, particularly on the lobs. And so I would like them, if they're going to go at Porzingis with force. And go at Tatum, go at Brown, because these are all players. Go at Holiday. These are all players who they won't back down. You have to, if you're right, you both are essentially going to punch at each other.
Mm-hmm.
But your punch has to be 5% stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, and I think this is where you're also getting into Kyrie Irving, I doubt is going to have another big off game like this. And I anticipate both he and Doncic finding that way to have 1v1 success, to break down the defense, and then be able to kick out to open shooters, or they will simply have somewhat easier buckets in the paint. And so I don't see the offense being, for sure, I don't see the offense being 89 points moving forward at all. Go ahead, Erock.
No, and I agree. And this also is something I'll add to Joe Mazzulla being. I'm not saying that kid J Kid didn't actually have a good strategy going into the game. I think maybe he did, but it's just like I think that was more on players. And he had once he calmed them down in the locker room. Like, I loved his speech; it was funny. But it's like, hey, we're playing basketball. You guys got to remember to have fun. I mean, that's like, I mean, it's such a simple message, but it's like so true. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, you're just being tight, but it's I give, but Missoula also. I love. Remember what I said yesterday. You asked me the key for the Celtics. I said the key for the Celtics is how Missoula is going to plug and play and manage the minutes of Schnapps. And he did. 20 minutes, and he came off the bench. That was the exact right thing to do. That's what I was asking. If I wasn't,
Yes.
that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Remember, I said that. I said that.
Yes, you did. You were correct then. You're correct now.
I'm Coach E-Rock over here. I'm just, I'm telling you. But what they also did was, I mean, that strategy that they better, he's gonna have to adjust again, because that strategy about leaving one-on-one on Luka may come back to bite them, because he starts draining trays or the step backs like he's doing and taking it to the hole, well, like he usually does, but especially in the previous series, both series actually. Then yeah, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna fly. And that's gonna, again, this comes down to creating. I love you, Andre. This is gonna come down to a match of pace. Also, the other thing I said was, and this actually turned out to be somewhat untrue, which was kind of weird. The only reason that they were getting transition points on Boston's side was because of turnovers. Now, you get turnovers on transition, that's a totally different thing, because there's no one in front of you most of the time. And that's where you're going to, and also it's deflating. It's a totally different thing. It's not that Boston controlled the pace. They controlled the defensive side of the ball. It was overall a pretty slow game, But again, the Mavs are going to have to show why they can outrun them. They can outlast them. Now, can they? I think they can. We've seen it. But there's going to definitely, but I love what Missoula did. This is the first time I've ever said this. I love what Missoula did in terms of adjustments. So the Mavs now the Mavs have better tape. They know what to go with. They have 2 days off. But so the Mavs, I'm not that worried. And Kyrie, it's an anomaly. Kyrie's not going to play that way again, guaranteed. Luka's not going to play that. He's going to make his shots next game, and they're not going to be honoring Bill Walton. Which, say what you will, that brings it. And Schnapps was full of adrenaline. First game back, I don't see him being. I'm not saying he'll have a bad game, but he's not going to have the same game because he was basically their offense in the first quarter that got them the distant lead, along with turnovers and fast break. Well, fast, not actual transit, not like rebound, fast break, etc. That's a way different thing. That was all Jason. That was all Jaylen Brown. So the Mavs, and I'll do a little on offense the Mavs should do in a second, but I'll turn it back to you for now.
No, go.
All right. Well, in this case, all right. So, because I want to make sure this fits inside the screen. All right. This is the basket for that's what the black dot is. All right. So, Luka always plays up to bring the ball up. Kyrie is usually right here. Well, I'm actually need to probably put their name, or not their name, but at least their first letter. All right. And then that's Kyrie. They play a two-top backcourt. Kind of split. All right, Luka and Kyrie. Right now, they were spreading them out, trying to stay away from Kristaps, I should say. I'm just going to say KP right here. And all right, so when Kyrie is coming down the court, Luka's bringing the ball down. What he expects Kyrie to do is Kyrie's going to clear out space. He's going to clear out space over here because that gives Luka either the option to look in the middle, which they're not going to do because Schnapps is 7'3", and he looks to drive and look for the lob. That's not going to be the case either. So I'm not going to do letters for the rest of the people because the rest of the people are not the stars. So what they had last night was they had JB guarding Luka directly, as shown right here. He's guarding him. He's shadowing him where he is on him like a shadow. Or like Kendrick Perkins said, I love this. He was on their ass like back pockets all night. That was hilarious. I love that term. So Kyrie is going to get a little bit of – there's going to be a shadower right here that's going to be looking for this entire side of the court. All right. Oh, excuse me. I'm having to reverse my look. He's going to be – because that's where it's going to be. They have this person either goes down to help out Kristaps, or he's going to go for that corner because Kyrie – and this is where PJ is always located. I'm using PJ specifically because that's like his gig. PJ is most of the time, his best shot is always in the corner. So that's already taken that away. What the Mavs need to do, since that's the defense they're running, is they need to be running. Hold on one second. I'm making an arrow here. And whoever this is, I'm just going to say whoever this offensive player is, they need to be running baseline screens back and forth. And that gives them, their eyes have to be head on a swivel. And that's where they have to be able to cut, and they can draw fouls. And that's going to tire out Kristaps Porzingis, because I'll actually use his full name, because this also leaves one other player, which is usually going to be a cutter right here. Or this is going to be someone that sets a screen. Either way, let me see. Hold on. This right here is the screen symbol right here. So this is the player that's the fifth player on the Mavs. This is where they're going to set the screens. This is where Luka, there it is. Luka gets his buckets. He cuts. That's where Kyrie can get his buckets. And with the baseline cuts back and forth, setting backdoor screens, etc. It'll distance Porzingis away from the ball, away from the basket, I should say. So when he's away from the bat, it draws him away, or he'll have indecision. And that also allows for offensive rebounds, putbacks, second chances, third chances, which they were not getting last night. That is what I would do moving forward if I was the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that kind of then eliminates the need for you, if you're going to go at Porzingis, to have to one punch man. You know.
Exactly.
But you see what I'm saying. If you are going to go directly at the Boston Celtics, like, you have to go at them, and you have to. To me, they looked a little weak. They weren't as strong as the Boston Celtics contention. Just generally, it looked like they were hoping / expecting them to give up, where the Timberwolves absolutely did, but the Boston Celtics didn't. And what you just displayed would fix that instantly. I think it eliminates that entirely.
Because JB is going to be JB. I think the one thing that is going to stay true on this diagram, my very, very sophisticated diagram on a receipt paper, is sorry, I didn't bring my loose leaf paper with me, but this right here, the backdoor screens, cuts, etc., the indecision. This could either be, and this could be, I forget their other center's name, and I'm not talking about Uncle Al. Uncle Al ain't going very far anyway. I'm not worried about him being in the middle. But what
are you talking about Cornette?
Cornette, yeah. I always call him Pritchard. Pritchard's the one from the outside. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's the guard.
Yeah, Cornette is I think he's the one. Yeah, him and Horford started or something like that. But either way, he's the other tall one. You got to draw them away. It's going to also take. The main thing is drawing the trees, the big trees away. Draw the trees away. Open up for a treeless, or at least close enough to a treeless area around the basket, to where, and Luka's not going to miss those layups. He's going to get the calls more often than not, compared to, Green, who got his cookies swatted, got his cookies swatted at the rim by Porzingis, and he looked very surprised. I don't know why. It's like he just decided to coast. That's where I go. You need to start working on, get back to the screen, the pick and roll. Kyrie also can, because this defender right here up at the corner guarding Kyrie is absolutely going to. He is blanketing that whole area. He's like committing back and forth. You need to create indecision. That's the biggest thing, I would say. I know Jason Kidd is really good at that as a former Hall of Fame point guard and champion point guard. So it's about creating indecision. Once the Celtics are a little bit on they're playing off their heels, not the ball of their feet, and then you got them. That's where Luka can do a step back, unblockable three. So, and that's, it's going to set up everything.
E-Rock, we just spent a half hour dissecting game one. I'm proud of us. Well done, E-Rock. But first, we have to move on. E-Rock, I'd like you to tell us about our good friend Jordan. Just tell us everything good and wonderful that Jordan is doing. Go ahead, my guy.
Jordan, I know you're watching, or at least you will watch. All right, Jordan, aka Boog, but you call him Jordan. You don't know him like that quite yet, but you should know him, because my man Jordan is absolutely just kicking tail right now. And it comes down hold up. I have my notes, man. I want to make sure. Oh no. Where'd you go? Either way. All right. Call Jordan. I had the company's name, and now I don't see it. So, but Jordan, call that number. He runs a barbecue business, and he runs Get Gone Detailing.
My guy. Yeah, my guy. I got it on the screen.
No, it's not there. It doesn't have. It just says ask for Jordan. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I know I forgot the barbecue name. I'm so sorry, Jay. My bad, home. Get him gone detailing. You got a scratch that needs waxing, not an itch that needs scratching. You want to get a fit ride. You want to get a sleek looking, clean whip. Then get on quick and call Get him going, detailing. My dude Jay knows exactly what he's doing and more. And he also knows something that's really good, near and dear to our stomachs and hearts, in a good way, not in a cholesterol way, but nice and hearty summertime barbecuing, North Carolina, Lexington style. Ask for Jordan. Tell him E-Rock and Gabe sent you from Scoutcast Media. This is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And if anyone, again, support local businesses, we love to shout you out just to, let everyone, know your name. And we'd like to see other people succeed. We promote growth. So call number 336-582-6041, 336-582-6041 for Jordan.
E-Rock, well done. We are talking about this.
Geno Smith.
Yes, Geno Smith and his legendary career. Is not at all what we're going to talk about. But but I appreciate the shout out for Geno Smith.
That was mean. I got no problem with Geno Smith. That's funny as hell. I'm sorry, Geno.
No. Maybe I should clarify. Coach Geno said something interesting on the Dan Patrick Show, and I respect the Dan Patrick Show. Maybe it's because I have an affinity for people who've just been in the business a while and are just clearly doing this because, right? You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. When for anyone, this has nothing to do with age, but for people where it's like you could literally be doing anything you want, you've earned that right, and you're set up where you could do literally anything you want, and for someone to be like, I still want to go to work and do what I'm really good at, like I just respect that tremendously. So, but anyway, that's not at all what this was supposed to be about. But let's focus back in.
You're right. That's true.
Coach Geno said this, and this is why. In terms of Caitlin Clark, and really in terms of anyone or anything, regardless of Caitlin Clark, regardless of what league, regardless if it's on the men's or women's side, regardless if it's for a player or coach, I'm very hesitant to crown anyone, and I'm very hesitant to say so-and-so will achieve X at the next level. Shout out Twitter. Until we see them in action in an actual game. And so this is why I said this, and I believe I have some strong backing now from Coach Geno. This is his direct quote. So you can find this on the Dan Patrick Show on Twitter if you want the full context, but this is a snippet. The delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. The kid was set up from failure right from the beginning. So before you go, E-Rock. So he says, shout out to Coach. I cannot say his last name. So if you know how to pronounce it, please tell me. Auriemma. Thank you. So shout out to Auriemma. We call them lifers. Joe, 10 out of 10, as always. Go ahead, E-Rock.
I got my hater blockers on right now. That's why the shades came on. The hater blockers. He's talking out of both sides of his damn mouth. This is stupid. He comes out recently, and he's part of the people that are saying, including Matt Barnes and other people, Matt Barnes saying, like, where's his teammates at? Charles Barkley's saying she's getting targeted. Other people are. And Geno kind of insinuated that recently. Now he's talking, and maybe this could be taken out of context. By the way, another, this is a lifer like Dan Patrick in the media is Bill Simmons. He's a funny dude. May not agree with him all the time, but he's a Hall of Famer as well. Dan Patrick, I always love Dan Patrick. Him and Rich Eisen are awesome. So back to this. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, yeah, she was set up for failure. That's true, but not the way that he's saying it. She was set up. Like, she's still tearing it up for a rookie. She's the best. She's probably got the best numbers of any rookie, but she's also relied upon the most of any rookie in the dub right now. And yeah, she has a lot of unfair expectations. Nothing changes from what we said. Nothing changes. So now I can take the hater blockers off because I ain't hating. So, you just got to, temper expectations. I'm all about. But Geno it's easy for Geno to cast any kind of opinions when, unlike Dan Hurley, he actually is the only coach that got an extension at UConn. They weren't able to reach an extension for Dan Hurley this offseason. So that might come back bite them in the ass real quick. So, yeah, I mean, Geno, it's all fun. It's all easy to make opinions when you're on your high horse making a crap ton of money and your
Wait,
future.
Iraq, maybe I'm confused. I want you to clarify what you said. So what is it that you're saying and I'm confused. So
Mhm.
what is it that you're saying in terms of he's talking about it out of his mouth? Both
Talking
sides of
about
his mouth?
both sides mouth, because recently he kind of was defending her in a way, like in like kind of a way, and he was taking that he was insinuating that position of people are kind of like targeting her, and she's you know, he but he's kind of was like kind of being more sympathetic to her, and now this statement, which again I could be taking out of context, but it's like he's kind of like, yeah, he's like, he's right. She has unfair expectations. Right? Like that she was set up for failure for that. But he's also saying like, it's insulting. Like I'm tired of people saying it's insulting to the rest of the women who done this. I'm like, well, you know what? That's not her fault. Blame the media then. Blame other people for making her to be the messiah of going into this and people trying to kiss the ring. I mean, I don't think people should kiss the ring for her. I don't think she expects that. I mean, but leave the lady alone for God's sakes. I mean, what's that face for?
Iraq, that's what you just said, that what he should do, that's what he's doing.
Oh, then maybe I misunderstood the quote. Then I'm sorry.
Yeah. And
Maybe
then and he can, right, he's basically not speaking out of both sides of the mouth. At least this is how I'm interpreting it.
okay.
Could be wrong.
Oh,
I reserve. By the way, I reserve the right to be wrong because I will always be 10 toes down, and I will either apologize or I will double down. So I reserve the right to be wrong and
fair
to
enough.
act accordingly. But anyway,
All right.
again, not the point of this at all. I don't know why I'm being sidetracked today, E-Rock. But anyway,
I'm rubbing off on you. I'm rubbing off. Yeah, it happens.
but no. So in terms of what you're saying first, that's still true, right?
Oh yeah.
In terms of him pumping up Caitlin Clark and saying, and then also saying that it's being in terms of being targeted, right? That's still true. What he's saying here is slightly different. Slightly different. So what he's saying. So again, I'm just going to read it once, just so that you have a second listen of it, because I'll grant you it is hard to just listen to a quote and then like try to analyze it. So I'll do that for you. I have no problem doing it. The delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go into the league and tear it apart. The kid was set up for failure from the beginning. So right, he's not tearing Caitlin Clark at all. So anything, right? Okay, so we're good there. And so when he says delusional fan base, I'm lumping in the media coverage of it too. That's what I'm doing. So so to be fair, that's not what he's saying. I'm lumping that in terms of the general gist and general feel.
Fair.
What he's more or less saying is that it's not right and it's unfair to her or to anyone and that it just really shows that you're kind of naive to the WNBA to say that any rookie is going to come in and just dominate.
Yeah.
Has she been spectacular? Yes. Has she been good? A good WNBA player, period? Yes. Has she been a good rookie? Undoubtedly, yes. But where I think he's coming from and where I've been coming from this whole time is that if you're late to the WNBA, fine. But you have to acknowledge it. And what I would recommend and what I think he's saying and what I've just thoroughly enjoyed is just watch the WNBA games and let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And so that's where I think he's coming from, E-Rock.
No, that makes more sense. I misunderstood, or I misheard, I misunderstood, etc. No, and everything I agree. When he's saying her fan base, I think he means like the more casual, non-committed. Like when I comment over, because I'm part of her fan base, I love Caitlin Clark. I love her game. I think it's incredible. I love her personality. And I mean that in a nice way. Usually that's not a compliment to females, but I'm saying that no, I love the way she carries herself. But her average fan base is, and I don't claim to be an W like a lifelong WNBA fan. I know the stars to an extent. I mean, again, I just know basketball. At least I like to think I do. And I
you
know
do, Rock. You do.
I mean, I like
I'll vouch for you. I'll vouch for you.
So I mean, I'm watching her game. I'm like in my head, like turning the gears, and like I'm looking at it from a player standpoint, like the X's and O's, and I love the way she plays. Now the casual fans like, yes, DC, she's gonna be the best. I'm like, no, I think she's arguably the best ever in college. In the NBA, yeah, she's gonna have to beef up a little bit, or at least she's gonna have to get some scratches. And people, I agree with Matt Barnes. Her team needs to start enforcing, because the only thing you're doing is picking her up off the floor. That ain't enough. You get it. You get on that ass like back pockets, like Perk said. All right, you get on their asses, because you can't allow your moneymaker, no pun intended, your golden child to go out there and get messed around with. It's just no. If your team's gonna suck most likely anyway, so the least thing you can do is defend her, and like
defend your take.
Well, defend her, like being like defend her as your teammate, not defend her like that, but get up in someone's grill, give them a shove, give them a damn shove to the floor. I mean, come on, that's what I'd do in a basketball game if it was getting like these ladies would F me up, but still, I'm talking about like even then, I'm still getting in someone's grill if they're if they're roughing me up. All right, fine. You want to do something?
All right. Sorry, Eric. I don't want to go over time again like we did yesterday, but we have to get to what the thumbnail is. So
You're good.
Dan Hurley, I have a theory here on what's actually going on, because I'll admit I was held captive, not by like pirates of a certain nation, right? But I was held captive intellectually, I would say. Oh, I like the prop there. I was held captive intellectually, I would say. In terms of, I just browsed the Twitter sphere, and I just more or less wanted to react to what I was seeing on Twitter, and I will admit I did zero due diligence. There was the diligence that was to be done was due, but unfinished. I will admit this. So Dan Hurley. So I have since, and again, this is why I amend my right to be wrong and my right to always double down, even in the face of adversity. But that being said, now, here's what I think actually happened with the Dan Hurley situation. Because it's very rare for just a complete nonsense story, especially from someone like Shams, from someone like Ian Rappaport, from Schefter. It's rare for a complete just nonsense story to be out there. Now, that doesn't mean true. What I'm saying is, right, they are the source, but where did they get the story from? Right? Usually that grapevine is solid. In terms of either it's going to happen, and so this is why most people tune into them, or it's someone trying to jockey for position, and so they tell these said people, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. or oh no, this is for sure happening, when in reality it's just them trying to gain an edge at the negotiating table. So here's what I actually think happened.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm going pirate stuff, full pirate.
Yeah.
Let's go. Full pirate, baby. Let's go.
I loved yeah, you look like
I'll take that one off. I like this one better.
You look, I don't know how to describe it even.
You
look like a middle schooler who is trying to just find a way to get to the detention room. That's what you look like when you have the paper.
Well, that sounds about right.
But back to JJ Redick, Dan Hurley.
Yeah, let me.
I 1000% believe that the Lakers wanted JJ Redick, that he was in line, and that this was a thing, more or less, that it propagate, right? The latest report about Dan Hurley, and that's why Shams initially released that story, and this is why everyone has more or less been going along with it, and there hasn't been much pushback until, what was it, yesterday or 2 days ago, where Dan Hurley is now all of a sudden at the catapult to the top, right? That's odd. That's very odd. That timing doesn't make sense to me. So I think JJ Redick overplayed his hand one way or another in terms of the final details. So now, and everyone knows Dan Hurley has been flirting with the idea of going to the NBA. So it's legitimate. But if we look at what the tweet actually said, the reports actually said, it was more vague in terms of interest, reaching out, initial steps, process, right? So to me, what happened was the Lakers then put out this story. And so now they're hedging. Either they get the guy who they've wanted all along in JJ Redick, or they get someone else who's a really good basketball coach and more than qualified. But that's what I think actually happened. JJ Redick overplayed his hand. The Lakers are saying, we're the Lakers. We've been this ain't our first radio. We have pull. So now, all right, JJ, you didn't like our initial offer, or you didn't like the say or lack thereof that you wanted in certain personnel or organizational decisions. Fine. No worries. If you don't want it, we have someone lined up. So now the Lakers are either going to get their guy or they're going to get Dan Hurley, and no one is going to criticize either decision either way. Unfortunately, someone, i.e. Shams, is going to look silly, or Woj. But that's what I think actually happened, and that's what makes the most sense to me now.
All right. I'll be very brief because I respectfully disagree. And again, this is all speculation on both of our parts. I think that Hurley was their goal, but as it was made clear to me yesterday by Woj, we obviously talked on the phone. No, we were sending carrier pigeons. Now he said on the tube yesterday that Geno Auriemma had a contract. They were trying to extend Dan Hurley. Apparently, there was no traction on agreeing with that. My theory is the whole thing with Boyega and specifically Redick, I guess more specific or more prominently, was them. That was their escape route. That was their backup plan, because they didn't know. And I think maybe like there was more pause between. They were trying to see maybe like what the salary, what the contract extension was going to be UConn was offering for Danny Boy. And then once they found out it was like, through other channels, wasn't what he was expecting. They said, okay, well, we got a bunch of money. We got a ton of money. And we want someone to build a culture, and you're a proven commodity. I don't care if it's a college. And he's got a pedigree. People forget about his family. Has a very, very very highly esteemed basketball pedigree. Granted, Bobby Hurley played at Duke, but be that as it may, he still was he's still a legendary college player, former college player. Coaches, his son's a coach. Both his sons are coaches. Obviously, Dan being one of them. The other one's Arizona State. And now this Danny Boy might be going to Tinseltown. So I think this is what they wanted for a while, but I think they wanted to keep it under wraps just in case it didn't go out, and they didn't want to lose face, because it would not look good if they lost another coach like Ty Lue, or they lost another player like, in this case, like Kyrie Irving a couple of years ago. So I don't know. That's my theory, but I mean, it's just
so E-Rock, here's why. First of all, you more or less, you started your statement with, I respectfully disagree, and then you legitimately agreed with 80% of what I said. So the one part that you agreed on.
Well, you said that you
E-Rock.
Okay. Explain.
The one part that you definitely said that you don't agree on is the timeline, in terms of you're saying that this has been months in the work, or whatever, weeks in the works, and that Dan Hurley was always their guy. But everything else, right, is basically last second scrambling, and for sure on the reporters' end. So But now this is what the actual report says from Woj. UConn men's basketball coach is set to meet about potentially taking the head coaching job.
Yeah.
That's what the report says. I'm told Dan Hurley is going to meet tomorrow with all the people involved and his agents. They're going to sit down and go through the framework about what a deal would look like.
Yeah.
Right? That is far from set in stone. And for sure, that's far from, well, we've been working on this for a while, right? That sounds like an initial feeling out process to me. And then here's Adrian Wojnarowski's initial tweet. The Los Angeles Lakers are targeting Connecticut's Dan Hurley to become the franchise next coach and preparing a massive contract.
That's what I said. That's everything I said. I never said that they've been in contacts. I said that UConn and them they were holding back, not putting their cards out there, because if they do that, then they're going to get into a bidding war with UConn. UConn, they wanted to see, because they knew he was in contract talks for an extension along with Geno. And what I'm talking about is, yeah, and like, again, it's not a done deal, but now he's in the building. That's exactly where they want him to be, because they're going to basically do what they can not to let him leave without signing anything.
Yeah, but that doesn't. First of all, that's not then what we're talking about, right? Because you're saying that that's who they've wanted this entire time.
It is. It's in their back of their minds.
Right. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but they've been waiting just to see what was going to happen. That's why they haven't made any moves. So, like, unlike the Hornets or a lot of other teams, they have not been, which is weird to say about the Lakers, because that's not, they usually do something stupid. This was the smartest play out they've done in a while. They were waiting to see what's going to happen, because he was number one on their list the whole time. I believe that. I totally believe he was number one on their list.
Okay. And if you could see that that's something of a baseless thing, because there's no proof, it's both speculation. Okay. Then I'm willing. Okay.
Absolutely. This whole
I'm going off of evidence of what I see. The evidence shows, and the reports have showed, the actual breadcrumbs have showed that the JJ Redick thing was their first plan, and that has been actually in the works. We have evidence of that, and we have sources of that.
I think that's a backup, right. And there's misinformation that was given a lot of times too. That could have been that could be the case. And again, it's speculation.
Right. No, but we have evidence that this is what the Lakers have been this was plan A. And that now, because of whatever happened in UConn, that this is now the plan B. This is what we actually have evidence for. And the Los Angeles Lakers organization is not the New England Patriots of the 2010s. The Los Angeles Lakers is one of the more porous organizations out there in terms of getting narratives, in terms of narratives escaping the building. So this is why I am 100% disagreeing that Dan Hurley was always plan alpha.
I mean, you're looking at evidence. I mean, again, take it for what it is. But, Pelinka and Bus saying that this was our plan all along. I mean, that's evidence technically too. I mean, because they said, and I mean, it's word of mouth, but actually it's coming straight from the horse's mouth. We don't know what was going on behind closed doors when it came to. I think JJ was an exciting possibility, but they were looking for someone to get a culture, and I think that's why they had been waiting so long. They were waiting to wait it out. They weren't going to sign him until after the finals, unless Bobby Hurley, Dan Hurley, Danny Boy became available. And once he did, they said, okay, we're not waiting for the finals. We're not waiting for the championship to be done. We're going to get this guy in the building stat.
Did you just say that they said that this was our plan all along?
That's what Pelinka said. They said, like, no, I didn't say his plan all along. He said that was their number one all along. Like he was like their.
That he said that Dan Hurley was their number one all along.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, so we will get to that later. We are over time. We gotta get out.